Hi, Hodies. My name is hautemesstom, and thank you so much for clicking on this video. Today, we are going to be doing a first impressions of the new launch from Isamaya Ffrench, Isamaya. And if that sounds good to you, I would love to have you subscribe. Please like this video, and I'm also on Patreon if you'd like to support me there. And if you are new here, my channel is really about loving my collection as it currently is. But every now and then, there's a launch or something that sparks joy, sparks intrigue. And that's exactly what Isamaya did. That's exactly what happened with Isamaya. I hadn't heard of Isamaya Ffrench before I saw the trend mood post that she was releasing her line. And the initial imagery that we were given was very spectacular. It was very focused, very niche, and that was really inspiring to me. The sneak peek photos were not like product photos, and then a couple days later, after I posted that video of Critical Sass, which is a new makeup release type video that I do on my channel, after I saw the products, I was like a little more on the fence about it. But with the marketing imagery, and I just believe that I liked it. I liked the fantasy that the imagery was selling me. I didn't really love the fantasy that the products, the way they looked, was selling to me. So I bought a couple of the products, and I am going to do a first impressions with you. Now, the reason I'm doing a first impressions today, if you aren't new to my channel, you know that this isn't something I normally do, but the cost of these products is pretty high. I think I spent $157 on two things. So keep that in mind. And so when I'm spending more money, I am expecting an experience from start to finish. So not only high quality products, but high quality everything. From the packaging, from the way it's shipped, from how it's shipped, it's all gotta be something. So down below, you will see a couple different things on the timeline. I'm going to be doing some swatches for you. I'm going to be doing an application with it today. I'm going to be doing a couple of different things. So if something on the timeline speaks to you more than what we are currently doing, please feel free to hop around and find what you need. So a little bit more background about this. I already kind of told you the why the Isamaya spoke to me. So after I saw the product marketing, I was a little bit confused because the imagery, like the makeup imagery in the promo shots, so the shots of like Isamaya wearing the makeup, were these intense, like BDSM inspired leather. It's like this whole thing. And I thought, wow, that is just so incredibly cool. My commentary in my Critical Sass, if you didn't watch it, was essentially that this was clearly a thing that she had in her mind, and it was not to appeal to the masses. Pat McGrath with your Mothership 10. This was something that it seemed like Isamaya was like, this is something that I really believe in. People are going to either like it or hate it, and that's that. And I was really intrigued by that. But then once the actual imagery of the products came out, that did not really align with the initial imagery we saw, because the products were being positioned on like a plain white background, which I understand for like color, you might want it on a white background. That's not the fantasy, right? Don't do it like that, because it's what you're selling and what I'm seeing to like click on. It's not the same fantasy, because once you saw the like stark white behind it, it was like, well, now it kind of feels a little bit tacky. And I did think that. And why is it focusing on? Anyway. So I did, excuse me, hi. What I did in the meantime, before the launch, I actually listened to a podcast called Fat Mascara, which I jump in and out of listening to Fat Mascara. I think they do a really good job, but I saw that they were interviewing Isamaya. So I was like, well, I want to listen to this. And I think now that I have listened to that, I get a better grip on what's happening. So this is it, right? So this is the industrial collection. And what that means is that the next collection, once these are gone, I don't think we'll ever have these products again. When Isamaya was talking in the interview, she essentially said that she couldn't see herself designing a product that was designed to be on the shelf for 10, 20 years and being like that kind of thing. So she's treating her makeup line like a fashion line. So there's going to be 4 releases a year. This is the summer release and it's the industrial collection. So in the fall, we will see another collection from Isamaya that's completely unrelated to this. And I have some thoughts on that. I think like there's a mascara in this collection and some people really love mascara and love to re-up on mascara. So if this becomes someone's like mascara that they always want to buy, I think it's interesting that there's like not going to be like an opportunity to rebuy that. However, with the eyeshadow, I think that's like a really good idea. With like the other things in the collection, that feels like a really smart move. Isamaya also talked a lot about how the importance of sustainability when designing her products and talked about directly working with someone while designing the products, designing the packaging and everything. Not to say that every other brand doesn't take all these things into consideration. It seems to me that Isamaya really wants this to be an experience every time we get a launch from her. And I hope that sustainability is important with all of her collections. I would love to see that. I think it's really great that it's something that she's taking into mind while she is designing product, designing packaging. I love that. That's really great. Let's get into the packaging. First impressions. So I have the box that it was shipped in right here. So this is the box. It's a plain black box. Now at first I thought that was a little bizarre, but I'm okay with that. Now I've had some other brands, you know, when you buy from them, this whole thing is just the whole experience. But I can appreciate this being a black box, not only because it's like the industrial, like this industrial fantasy that we are serving, but also if every collection from Isamaya is going to be something different, and they buy the boxes, then you never have to worry about like in the new collection having boxes from maybe the previous collection that don't match. So I think this is wise in being able to continuously use these boxes with any collection. If this is just what the packaging is, this is what it is. So when you open it up, there's not even like any kind of labeling in here. So I also kind of thought that was curious. And the products are packaged. This is just like paper, and I would say they were kind of loose in here, but I can confirm that I did not have any damage happen to mine. While we are talking about the box, let me tell you how this shipped. So I believe that the brand is like, it's technically like a British brand, or it's definitely not an American brand, right? Isamaya is not from America. I don't think. I could be wrong. I will fact check myself if that is incorrect. I did the pre-order, and the pre-order said that things were going to ship around July 4th. And I got a shipping notification, I think 2 days ago, that it was in Illinois. And then it basically took 2 days to get to me from Illinois, like Chicagoland area. Which I thought was interesting that it was coming from Chicago, because normally if you order something from across the sea, across an ocean, it normally lands in New York and then ships from New York, at least to where I live. That's like typically when I buy something, it always goes to New York and then comes to me. And then another thing that I noticed is that it is distributed by SH Beauty Inc., which I will see if they do any other. I'm wondering if that is maybe an incubator situation, but I'm not, like a brand incubator. I'm not sure. I haven't looked into it. This is like still first impressions, but I did note that. But there's also a UK thing in here as well. I think both products that I bought were manufactured in Italy. I don't know about that. It just felt weird that it came from Illinois. It felt weird that it came from Chicagoland, and then the 2 addresses that you can see on the packaging are not. It's like New York or London. Anyway, I should tell you what I bought. I bought the Rubberlash Latex Lift Mascara, and I also bought the Pigment Palette. So I'm going to give you some overhead footage of what the outer packaging of the boxes look like, but the cartons feel really nice. They look really beautiful and professional. And so when you open up the product, so the Rubberlash mascara, it has Isamaya on this rubber. It's like this rubberized thing, what I think is on the outside of what we consider to be a traditional mascara tube. I'm not going to take this rubber thing off because I think I would have a hard time getting it back on. Now, A thing that I think a lot of people were confused by was this like piercing situation. When she was on Fat Mascara, she did mention that this is like stainless steel jewelry. Like you would be able to wear that if stainless steel is something that like works well with your body. I know that a lot of people have weird metal allergy situations when it comes to that. This is not I don't have a piercing that's big enough to hold something like this, but I will tell you that this ball on it was not attached whenever I opened it, which is totally fine. I was able to pop it back in, but considering it's like wearable jewelry, that makes sense that it did, because if it wasn't, then what would be the point of it? If we're thinking about sustainability, it's like, well, you actually do get a piece of jewelry when you buy it. I'm going to pop the price of this mascara up there. It's pretty pricey. I think it was $39 US. We also have the Industrial Color Pigments palette. This is a lot smaller, I think, than what I thought it was going to be. It looked really big in the promo imagery, so I was a little bit concerned. So I think the thing that turned off a lot of people was the way that this was designed, because this three-dimensional thing, it makes it thick. However, if we were to remove that, it is actually a very thin palette. Like, I could see a pro makeup artist using this. So I don't know if this is something that I can remove, this like latex person in here. I don't know if that's something that you could remove, but just know that it is shaped like that. And I do think that was a turn off for a lot of people, and including myself. When I saw that, I was like, I don't know how I'd want to store that if this ends up being a product that I actually want to keep. When I purchased this, I thought that this palette was going to be the size of a Pat McGrath palette. And here's the size of the Isamaya palette. Here's the size of the Pat McGrath palette. So the Pat McGrath palette is much longer, but the Isamaya is, only like a skosh thicker because of the 3D person on the front. For comparison's sake, I feel like everyone has at least seen an Anastasia palette. In comparison to an Anastasia palette, it is even smaller than that. Why I say this would be really great for makeup artists if it didn't have that 3D person on it is like this really fits in the hand quite well. But for thickness's sake, it's very scientific, it also really isn't much thicker than that. I think it's still a stupid thing as far as storage, and it's also, I would say, not as heavy as I was thinking. If I were to compare weights, like this is so much heavier than this, so it's really not giving me that like luxe weighted feel. It's not super light, it's not like flimsy, but it certainly isn't giving me like the density that I was expecting, especially whenever we're thinking about it being this industrial experience. I'm a little bit confused about that, but let me open the palette for you. Here is what it looks like. And something that I clocked when I was looking at the back of the eyeshadow palettes box is that almost every eyeshadow formula in here, with the exception of a few, is its own individual formula. I also find this palette a little bit difficult to open. Like, there is this, I don't know what to call it, but like a little flap. It reminds me of like whenever I first got the Fenty highlighters, I had a big problem opening them. But as you can see, like if this rubber person wasn't on the front here, I don't feel like this would be so awkward to hold up. Whenever I'm looking at the formulas, again, I haven't touched these yet. The swatching I'm going to do after I film this part. It looks to me as though there's one matte, and it is this black, and then there is like a matte with sparkles, which is the shade down here, which I believe, I'm gonna be really bad at this. I hate saying the shades out loud because the shades are on the back here. This doesn't bother me, actually. I'm not someone, whenever I'm doing makeup tutorials or using makeup in my usual video content, I'm not worried about the shades of my names because my content is really focused on using your collection as it is. So I want you to be inspired by what I'm using normally, but I think for the purposes of this type of video, I should be a little more specific. So I believe that this is the shade Motor. It seems to be a black with some blue sparkles in it. Quite a few of them seem like to have a lot of texture to them, but this shade right here, which might be Heat, I'm not quite sure which goes with which on the back here. So don't take my word for that, but I think this is Heat. If you ever saw the Stoned Vibes palette from Urban Decay, this one right here looks like a formula similar to that. Or if you've ever used like the Huda larger palettes, the shimmers in there that have that like smooth marbling, that's kind of what that one looks like. This kind of looks like one of the astral pigments from Pat McGrath. So I'm seeing some formulas that I think are going to behave like some things I've used before. But I'm also seeing some formulas like this one right here, which I believe is the shade Grip. That shade looks really cool and interesting to me. Now, there are 14 shades in here, so you're getting quite a selection. But like I said, this either would have to be a companion palette if you only use one shimmer, but if you're not afraid to use a bunch of shimmers all over your eyes, then I don't think that you would have an issue with this. This palette was $115, by the way. I don't think I've mentioned that quite yet. What I want to do now is I want to start exploring the palette. I will start with the eyeshadow palette. I'm going to prime my eyes with the Atelier eye primer, and I'm going to set that with the Pat McGrath translucent powder, and then we will get started. Before I start playing with the eyeshadows on my eyes, I want to reiterate that this is a first impressions video. This is the first literal time that I am touching any of these, putting them on my eyes. So here are some things that keep in mind. I can't speak to the longevity of these on my eyes because I haven't worn them for a long period of time. I will not be wearing them for a long period of time today. I was really excited to get this palette and I wanted to make this video as soon as possible because I'm going on a trip tomorrow, and I also, for the health of my channel, I think getting this video out sooner rather than later out into the public eye is going to benefit me as a content creator. And those are things that I do keep in mind whenever I am making content. But first impressions doesn't mean it's my final thoughts on this. So what could happen is today I don't really like it, and then a month from now I can be raving about it. Or what happens today, I really like it today, and then a month from now after I play with it for a while, it's like something that doesn't inspire me anymore. So keep that in mind. What I want to do is I want to finger swatch the shades that speak to me. So this shade right here, that's a very interesting, very sparkly shade. Whenever I put my finger in it just now, it felt a little bit dry, and it definitely has some large glitter particles in it, like glitter particles that I could feel upon putting my finger into it. But it's swatched kind of nice. I do think that there would be a lot of potential for fallout for this particular shade, which doesn't scare me, but I've touched shades like this before that felt cheaper, but it also doesn't feel, this didn't, like with my finger, didn't feel like a super luxurious dipping my finger into a shade. There's a lot going on with this shade. So the second shade that calls to me is that shade that I said reminded me of the Stone Vibes. Okay, interesting. I wasn't expecting that to be like a stark silver. I was expecting some intrigue. That seems... Teresa, I think if you're watching, I think that might be a silver that you might enjoy. Again, the formula wasn't the smoothest, but also I'm using my finger. It basically, the back of the packaging says to use your fingers or a brush. So it does say that you can use whatever method. I now want to touch this green. Okay, that felt really nice. It's really impactful. You know, I just want to get in my hand as like many of the formulas that I can touch. I want to put my hand in this one, but I also want to put my hand in this one. They seem to be, very similar. That's really swampy. That is really interesting because it doesn't look like that swampy in the palette. Interesting. And so right here on my ring finger, That's a shade that looks like a similar formula. What I'm noticing now that I have this in front of me is that it like, of course it's like industrial, but of course it has like that grungy feel to it. But there is like a lot of like subtleties of green in here. Now I want to stick my pinky in this orange one. I do want to touch some more while I'm sitting here. I'm sorry. I know there's going to be a whole swatching portion of the video that isn't this. But the last two things is I want to put my hand in this Fetish shade, which is the black matte. That's it on my finger. There will be some sparkle because I already so many sparkly things. So the matte is actually very creamy, and I remember reading in like the verbiage that they were described as like inky shades, and I think I'm getting that vibe, but they don't really look that way in the pan. And I think once we all saw them in the pan, we were like, inky, like inky. But now that I have it in front of me and I can like see the swamp witchness of it, I'm getting it. Very curious. And the last thing I want to swatch is this, what reminded me of the Astral Pigments from Pat McGrath. Oh, okay. Yeah, it has that vibe, but it's not as sparkly as the Pat McGrath. It almost has that quality of, it's like invisible until the light just hits it. So it kind of reminds me of the space pastes from Lemonhead Cosmetics. I have a Houdini space paste from them. Very similar to that. I think that'd be like a really great topper on top of the black shade. I think I'm going to construct this eye look a little bit differently than I normally would. I don't think I'm going to use that silver shade, which I wasn't expecting that shade to be a silver, but it is 100% a silver. This marbly shade here, but it has some flakiness to it. But whenever I swatched it, it didn't feel flaky. Anyway, I really think that I want to use this green as my like inner corner moment. So I think I don't normally start with my inner corner, and we can always, if we need to go back over it once we started constructing the rest of the eye, we can. I really love a green. Wow. Okay. Whoa. I was not expecting a brush to work that well with this type of formula, but that was pretty high impact with just a brush. I'm going to zoom you in while I'm constructing the eye so you can see what I'm doing. But yeah, that was just a brush. I really truly wasn't expecting the brush to be able to pick up this type of like sparkly textured shade and apply it and get this green on the first go. Things are looking promising, Hoties. I will put the name of the person who came up with the Hoties. I love it. It's a play on like hotties. I love it. It's like makes me so happy. Where do we go from here? So I think I didn't swatch this shade with my fingers, so this could be a disaster. I'm taking a fluffier brush. I think I'm going to put this. Oh. Not expecting it to be. It's reading orange right now, but it looks green in the pan. Okay, now I'm starting to get the something closer to the color that I thought I was gonna get. I'm gonna use a different brush for this shade. So that requires a little bit more of a denser brush, this formula, to get that base pigment on. I'm not really sure if I like this shade. I'm gonna apply it with my finger on the other eye just to see what we get. Okay, so I just used my finger, and we're not getting that base pigment, which might not be the point. Maybe in the thought process behind the shade, maybe they didn't really want it to have that much. There's a shimmer in here. There's certainly a shimmer. Okay, I don't think I love this shade in particular. It's not. It is like giving me like matte with a shimmer in it vibes. I didn't even swatch that one that I called that. That's the one that has like the black and blue in it. The glitter is much smaller in that particular shade. You know what's so funny is I swatched all these shades and now I want to use different shades on my eyes than the ones I swatched. But what I think I want to do all over the lid is maybe this orange. This orange reminds me a lot of something out of the Pat McGrath Nocturnal. Nirvana? No. The Pat McGrath Mothership 6. But it doesn't have the flakiness of that. This is where we are so far. Now I want to do some deepening on the outer edge. And what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to take that really interesting shade that I described as like chunky earlier, the one that had like all of the colors in it. This one right here. And I'm going to put that on the outer edge here. I'm gonna say this now, and this is probably very apparent to you. If you are not okay with like glitter all over your face, or if you don't like to do your eyes first, then I am gonna tell you right now that I don't know that I could recommend this to you. There is glitter everywhere. For me, not an issue. Like I don't view that as like points against it. I just do think that, you know, as I'm playing with it right now, I think it's worth just noting. As I'm like playing with this, it's like I don't even know that I'm gonna get like a good eye look. I like did that copper shade and I felt like it stole more of the show than I really wanted it to. And like I'm having the thought, should I put that blue shade, that blue shade that I said is like this blue, this like highlighter? I'm gonna be brave and bold and put it on top of that orange. Okay, why is that pretty? I feel like that shouldn't have worked. I don't know. That might be ugly. But I also think it's definitely really working as like that. It is giving that Houdini, like you can still see the orange, but it's also like kind of hiding it too. Now, like blue and orange are opposite on the color wheel, so I think it's kind of like canceling it out and just making like this cool grayish shade, but you can still see the orange. Interesting. I'm certainly taking myself on a journey today. I'm gonna have to go ahead and say if you are using this and you're worried about fallout, you're gonna have to be like really careful about what you're doing. I'm also not using like glitter primer either. I'm using, you know, I'm just really running the gambit. I do think what I would like to do now, I think I'm like kind of done putting some of the shimmers on my eye. And I'm gonna take the black here. I just want to see if like we see it add anything to the outer corner here. Or if that multi-chrome sparkle situation is dark enough to do. No, it's definitely darker than that sparkly shade. Here's where I'm at with the eyes. I'm gonna try to do like grungier on the rest of my face, but I'm gonna do that. Then I'm gonna come back and we will put on something on the lower lash line and then we will put the mascara on. Okay, which I'm really excited about. But I will see you in a few moments for that. Okay, I wanna do a little bit of drop shadow with this. And I am gonna use that interesting black and navy shade. And then, because might as well, we have so many shades on our lid. I am gonna take this shade here, and I'm just gonna take that I just realized that I didn't even finish my face and I started doing that. Let me finish working on the rest of my face. I was inspired to just like kind of do a lot of things that I don't normally do. And I'm into it. I have some green in my contour. I have like green highlighter just kind of like just in places. Like it's like in a highlight spot, but like it's a little too low and I don't know. I was feeling inspired. Okay, let's play with the mascara. I haven't opened this tube to look at the wand yet. This has like a rubberized outside. So, oh, okay. We have like a rounded, curvy situation. I am gonna do one coat on my right eye. I'm gonna zoom you in even more. I'm gonna do this eye. Hopefully you can see. I know that I have like dark product down and I don't actually ever curl my lashes beforehand. I think I was expecting something a lot crazier to just happen right now. And I don't know that that did happen. However, I really like this so far. Like I enjoyed the application process of this quite a bit. Okay, so I think what I was kind of expecting was to not like this mascara. I was kind of expecting it to be incredibly clumpy and hard to work with, but it isn't. Like I'm still getting nice separation because I think that's like the nature of this type of wand. Like I like these like it's like definitely a rubber bristle situation, but I really like this. I do believe that this was like almost $40 or if not $40. I'm gonna do a second coat because we have a really intense look going on our eyes and I just think it'd make more sense. Okay, so now that I'm putting on more, I do feel like I'm running into a little more of like a clumpy situation, but like not even the worst. Like I've had mascara experiences much more tragic than this. The mascara doesn't smell like any mascara I've smelled before, but it doesn't smell bad. Let me give you some just like final thoughts. Obviously, they're not true final thoughts, but after playing with shade, let me tell you what I'm thinking so far. Let's talk about the palette first. The three-dimensional thing on the front is not my favorite. However, once I started putting the eyeshadows on with the brushes, these formulas are like they're unlike anything I've ever felt before. Because at first when I started like swatching them, I was pretty uneasy about them because I was like, these feel kind of, I don't want to say cheap. That's like not it. But they felt like familiar formulas, but not quite super familiar whenever I was like playing with my fingers. And then when I was putting them on my eyes, I was thinking, this doesn't really go together. Like, I think I like picked the wrong colors. And then as I was doing the rest of my face off camera, I like really started living for this eye look. And this inspires creativity. This inspires, I can't wait to play with this again. I'm inspired by it. I'm feeling like ghoulish and grungy right now, and I love that. So I really can't wait to dig back into this and see what else I can do. I want to try like making some neutral looks with it. I'm in. I'm in for the journey to continue playing with this. I feel like the formulas I need to get to know a little bit better. Like the one that I put as my like crease transition shade, that one was a little bit uneasy about, but I'm excited to use that shade in different ways. So I am excited. This sparks joy this sparks intrigue. I know that I'm gonna want to play with this every time I do my makeup for the foreseeable future. And I cannot wait to report back to you with like some final thoughts on this in about a month's time after playing with it. I don't know how long these are going to be for sale, how long they'll be manufacturing these, but I will still do a final thoughts video on this, like a full, like not a full review, but a follow-up to see if I'm still feeling the same way that I am today about it. I am, it's interesting. It's like I'm more impressed with the idea of it, even though that's in my hands, than I am like thinking about the quality of the eyeshadows. And some of the eyeshadows, like this green on the inner corner is like everything to me. This green is really everything. That blue that I put on top of the orange that really like transformed it into something completely different, I'm like liking that shade a lot. The glitter on the outer corner, that black glitter shade, the black glitter with like the different colored shades in it, like I'm not sure I'm like fully living for that, but I like what I've done today, and I think ultimately that is a true win. I'm really excited to continue exploring that. And the mascara, I truly wasn't expecting to enjoy this lash situation that I have going on my face. I was not expecting to like this mascara, but the reason I bought this mascara was because my other mascara that I've been using for the past 3 months has hit the 3-month mark. So it's time for me to switch mascaras, which is why I went for the mascara instead of the lip product, which was the other thing I had my eye on. And within my budget, almost relatively within my budget, I was able to get the mascara to have a couple of things to play with. But yeah, as far as these two go and me playing with them just now, I am excited to see what else this brand does. So this collection was industrial, kind of reverting back to the Chat on Fat mascara. The next one could be like extremely girly and frilly. This is just what we got this time. It doesn't mean that everything's going to be this industrial from Isamaya. So if you are into this and you want to have the opportunity to buy it, I do think that like, unfortunately, with the nature of the way that she intends on releasing product, I think if you had any inklings toward it, that you might need to buy it now as opposed to later. Would I pay $115 again to play, like, for this? I'm so far, I'm not disappointed. Okay, but I can't fully recommend anything to you upon a first impressions. I just really can't sit here. However, if you saw something that you enjoyed and you liked and you think that you would get something out of it, then I'm not 100% sure you won't be satisfied. But again, this was just a first impressions. But look what it inspired me to do. Like, I have green shimmer eyeshadow right here, like a dark blackened green. And then like, I'm feeling my craft fantasy. I'm gonna leave it right there for you. I appreciate you so much for watching this video. I really, really do. And if you aren't subscribed to me already, I would really appreciate it if you did subscribe to me. And I'm on Patreon if you would like to support me there. And remember to follow your haute and you will find me. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye! Bye!